Hello, fellow writers. I'm Lewis. That over there is Tolkien, and you have found the Scripturient Society.
Welcome, everybody. I'm getting a lot of exercise lately. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, you get to saw my eyebrow lifts. You got to see them. Listen, I can speech, but I'm not going to speech. I'm going to speech incorrectly as much as I possibly can. No good speak can I. That over there, who is much gooder at the speaking, is Carissa Harlow, aka Lewis, aka Catherine, her dark alter ego. I'm Ash O'Rourke, aka Tolkien, aka out of my mind, insane, boy oh boy, wow.
I mean,
And
is that really different? You know?
no, I feel like every week it's just, and there's Carissa, she's beautiful, and here I am when I am a wreck. But I'm look like, if you're watching this on YouTube, I look like more of a wreck than usual. Like I'm still like I'm sweaty. I look like I've been working outside because I have been. And I just like ran in here, like unload some groceries real quick and sit down, even though I already had my setup. I had my setup already at like 4:45. I want you to know, like
Hmm.
I was on it. Um, and then I had to unload groceries because they were already thawing. So
Hmm.
um, yeah. Anyways, you know how you like how even though I always like to start off with how's your week, I tell you just a little bit about the 10 minutes
It's
preceding me sitting down here.
yeah, it's good. It's like back and forth. We start with Ash, and then we go to me, and then we end with
And then
Ash.
to Ash, just lots and lots of Ash. Just the way Ash
Yeah,
likes it. 'Cause she's a middle child who never had a voice. Just kidding. I was very
it's a
loud.
sandwich, and you're the bread.
Yeah. Oh, I love bread. So that makes me
I
happy.
mean, who doesn't? Today in my group chat at work, I don't remember, well, I do remember why, but I'm not going to go into it. We were talking about how in French, potato is translated to apple of the earth. And I sent this as like a fun fact, and everyone's like, yeah, I know, it's so cool. And I'm like, wow, we have a lot of potato-based knowledge. So potatoes and bread are like the best, and
Yeah.
there's never a bad time to talk about it. So
No. My child agrees. He eats mashed potatoes. He'll eat French fries. He'll just suck off pieces of French fry, just like full
yeah,
suction power until he's got a little piece he can gum up. And then also bread. If you tear off a little piece of bread, he will gum it down as well. He's all about it. He's my
I
car
mean,
baby.
he's correct.
He's
Can't
correct.
complain.
He has excellent taste, obviously. He also thinks
Yes,
I'm the coolest, so therefore even more evidence that he has excellent taste. But
obviously.
Catherine
Yes.
Lewis,
Hello.
how's your week been?
My week is good. Was good. My week is good. Like, I don't know.
I'm gonna make you question yourself.
You are. No, I'm like, wait, what are verbs? Um, it was good. We had a new person start at work. So now we have a 9-person editing team again, which is cool.
Nice.
Um, I haven't like met her in person, but I met her on Teams today. So that was fun. We did like a group thing.
Nice.
Um, But yeah, I mean, I don't feel like I have that many updates. I'm preparing to go to my cousin's wedding in it's the end of May,
That's
so
right. Your
a
cousin
couple
that you
weeks.
chose over me.
Yes, that one.
Just unreasonable. So
Yeah,
unreasonable.
it's so silly. I know.
Why? Why would you want to go to your cousin's wedding when you can come here and hang
Why?
out with a baby and me?
I mean, it's a toss-up. They're both good options, but it's gonna be my first
True.
bachelorette party, which will be fun.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
Just for a
and
potato fun fact, my bachelorette party, we watched The Office John Mulaney and we ate 4 different types of potatoes. So
that's right. I
kind
heard.
of
I was
awesome.
jealous. Lots of
Yeah.
potato-based things.
You were
Always good.
invited, but you don't like to leave
Yeah.
your house.
It was during COVID.
That's true.
I
You
don't
were
think I
also
was
invited to
invited.
the wedding. You were. It was like because you were one of my maids of honor.
I was invited in spirit, but I never
Yeah.
actually got invited. So
Yeah. Well, you got your be a bridesmaid thing and then COVID happened and we were like, never mind the whole everything. So
we're
if it
gonna
hadn't been
stop that.
COVID, you
Yeah.
obviously would have been there as a bridesmaid. So
Yes, it's true. I would have come if it hadn't been COVID. So,
I believe you.
you know, yes. But yeah, I now feel just like I'm rambling on about boring things. I really didn't have like a super intense. Well, so I've been working a lot of overtime. So mentally, I feel like I have done a lot.
Yeah.
Um,
Boy, oh boy.
but not actually. So, yeah, I mean, I have been productive at work and everything, but not like I have many things to discuss. I like my small group took like a accidental hiatus. So I hadn't seen them for like 3 weeks, and then I saw them this week, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness. I was like, I
Aw,
missed you.
that's so
Um,
sweet.
but like by nature, I really didn't see them as much as usual. So, but anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's I don't know what that's like. I've only been to a small group a couple times and it was very stressful. Let me flip over my child. Hang on.
Okay.
I know, he's so hard. Hi,
Like he's a
Riley.
pancake.
Ready? Flip, pancake, flip. And now he's like, what am I looking at?
What is this?
Hi, stink bug. He's still getting his bearings.
Like, whoa, where am I?
Yeah. Anyways, there's Riley. He's a designated pod baby and our producer, unnamed, of course,
Mm,
uncredited, except for right now where I'm
right.
crediting you, Riley. We'll see if he's going to be chill for this podcast. If not, I'm very sorry, but I brought him snacks and his sippy cup and his little mat. Anyways, so I will try. Um, yeah.
Yeah. How was your week?
Oh,
I think that's what
okay.
we're on.
Oh,
I'm done.
we're back to me. I should have known.
Yeah.
Sometimes I know it's my turn, but I don't want to seem like, let's talk about me some
Yeah.
more. So I'm like, wait for the lead in, Ash. Come on, you can do it.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Today on our like meeting, it was like a meet and greet with everyone on the team. And like our supervisor's like, who wants to go next? And I'm like, okay, I'll wait 5 seconds. And if no one says anything, then I'll talk because I don't want to sound like I just want to talk about myself. So I have to be chill
Right?
about this.
There's like an etiquette. It's an etiquette of
Yeah.
awkwardness. You have to like
Yeah.
allow for a certain amount of awkwardness to pass before you
hmm
speak.
And you have to like look at other people's expressions and gauge like, okay, I think they're gonna talk. So I don't want to talk at the same time. So I have to make
Yeah.
sure no one's lips are moving and then I can talk.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. And then inevitably when you do go and you start to talk, someone else does, and you're like, dang it.
Like, never mind, I'll just turn my mic back off.
Yep, every single time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so my week. Let me see. I guess I can start with the sad news because then everything else will seem
Mhm.
better by comparison. Catherine already knows this. Well, Carissa knows. Catherine might be rejoicing a little bit in her evilness.
Yeah.
But Carissa is sympathetic, understandably. My husband is very kindly showing sympathy for me, which is genuine, but I also know he's very, in a way, happy about this, and that's gonna make him sound a lot meaner. But I'll just set the scene and you guys will understand. My 18-year-old kitty cat, Lily, we had to take her to the vet this week, and I kind of knew what they were going to say. They were going to be like, time for a quality of life assessment because she's been having
hmm
problems for years. And it's gotten, the last 2 weeks, we just dropped, just downhill really sharply. And kind of things that she's having, like the problems she's having aren't reversible. There's like one treatment they could have done for like pain, but it would just be like managing things for a very short time and it wouldn't
hmm
solve any of the other problems.
Right.
So we had to put Lily Cat down this week. It was very sad.
Yeah.
On our usual recording day. That's why we're recording Thursday instead of Tuesday. Oh, look, that's my mom. Sorry, mom. Um, Anyways, so my mom, speaking of, my mom came with me, so that was very sweet. After I was just taking off work early with my little 6.5 month old, or I guess he's closer to 7 months now, and
Mm.
we went over to the vet, and my mom came, and it was very sweet but very sad. But it is good to think that she is with Shaylee, our sweet Great Dane now, because they were the best of
Yeah.
buds, and she's big and fat again and basking in the sunshine, like in her glory days. She's been very like
Aw.
skinny and frail, and she was
Yeah.
like falling over just like standing. And then like if she tried to jump on anything, couldn't do it, and she would fall over again if she like jumped off of something, and her little legs would
hmm
shake, and she would have a really hard time like sitting down and standing up. Like it just really got bad really fast. Like it was already not great, but it got so bad so fast. So that was
Yeah.
very sad. And I feel like a psychopath because I didn't cry and I still haven't cried.
No.
So, and not that I'm much of
I
a crier, but like I feel
yeah.
like I've had her for 18 years. She was born in our dining room. She's like my
Mm.
cat. She's kind of just like the family cat, but she's more my cat and has always been more my cat than anyone else's. So
Mhm.
you would think, and it's not that I'm not sad. It's almost just like my brain is like, she's still here, duh. Every time like I hear
Yeah.
like one of the other cats' bells jingle, I'm like, Lily? Because
Yeah.
she's been there for 18 years. So she's a
hmm
fixture in my life and my house. So my
Right.
brain has not yet processed that she's not here.
Yeah.
Um, so that was my sad news. But oh, for the thing that doesn't make my husband sound like a monster, for being kind of glad. And I will admit there's a certain level of relief to this as well. She was
Mm.
peeing and pooping and vomiting everywhere. And we've
Yeah.
been dealing with that for like the last year and a half or more. It has just gotten so much worse the last 2 weeks. So it is in a sense nice to not have to clean like cat pee off my kitchen counter because that's just horrifying.
Mm.
And also I don't have to keep like a puppy pee pad in my kitchen floor, which is kind of nice.
Right.
So there are some benefits, and I'm not going to pretend that those don't exist. But my husband's still been very sweet because he also actually like he's a cat person. He can't hide it. He loves cats.
Yeah.
He's actually never thought he would be a dog person at all until we got Ruby, who's in love with him. So my child agrees. I'm trying to think if there's anything else interesting. My child's grown a lot of hair back, so that's
Hmm.
great because
Yes.
he was born with so much hair and then it all fell out except for in little patches. So he looked like a little balding man, not like a bald man, like a balding man.
Balding.
Yeah.
In the process of going bald.
In the process of going bald, like pretty far along in the process, but not
Yeah.
quite there. And it is all grown back in and it's so fluffy. It like defies
Yeah.
gravity. It's fantastic.
Uh,
Except for one bald spot on the back of his head because he still sleeps on his back. Even though he can roll over, he doesn't want to. So he just sleeps on his back. And when he rubs his little head on his little crib sheet, he
mhm.
rubs off all his hair. So
Aw.
yeah, that's kind of hilarious.
Oh, babies are silly.
Yeah, so silly. And he's been talking to himself, going ba 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 ba. So it's great because he's getting some more like consonants in there. Like he learned ma ma ma. He's done ba ba ba. He did da 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 like twice, and it was super weird because my mom's like grandma name or whatever is Poppy, like the flower, which I've probably said before. But she was leaving after we had to put Lily down. She came over and we had some food, so that was good, and we just got to hang out and talk, which I think was nice. And then when she was leaving, I'm holding Riley on the porch, and all of a sudden he looks at the dog, then he looks at my mom, and he goes, "Pop." And I was like, "What?" Like it clear as day. Like I know it had to be a fluke because he's 7 months old,
Uh,
but he's never done the p sound ever. And he
yeah.
said pop. And I was
Aw. It
like,
just
I know
came
it was a
out.
fluke, but it was so cute.
Aw.
Yeah, it was precious. And now he's getting mad. So
How dare you talk about him? It is
I
not a
know.
fluke.
He's like, Mom, I did it on purpose, I swear.
I worked
Okay.
so hard and you're just dismissing it.
He's literally rubbing his eye. How could I say that about him? Um, and my chickens have all been getting picked off by a raccoon who keeps digging its way back into the
Still?
coop.
Ugh.
Yes. And it's very upsetting because I'm gonna come get you in a second, my guy. Do I need to come get you right now? You're smiling, so you're faking it. That's unfortunate. Um, yeah, so this raccoon keeps like burrowing into the coop, and the part that is really, really frustrating is that it doesn't even eat the chickens. There's no circle of life. It just rips off
Right.
their heads for bloodlust and then leaves their bodies. And I'm like, bro, at least take the
So
chicken.
like psychotic.
I know. They're like, you can clean that up. And then they leave. I'm like, dang it.
It kind of reminds me of that scene in the fourth Jurassic Park or whatever when they like see all the dead dinosaurs and they're like, it's killing for sport. You know?
That's exactly what it is. Oh, that's so funny. See how that went from a whine to just a which is what he does. Okay, I'm gonna grab him. Do you have any book recs?
I don't. I feel like I was intended to stall here. Um, so I will just give like my obligatory, your regular programming recommendation of The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken because I went a little crazy on Etsy last night and I bought a shirt that is Darkest Minds themed. So I'm very excited about that. And you guys should read it if you haven't. So I talked about The Darkest
What should they
Minds.
read? Oh, excellent. Always a good fallback book recommendation.
Yeah, like it's my go-to. Also, this is not like super related, but it's sort of related. I finally sent Ash her birthday present. So that should be coming at some point. I was waiting for it to go on sale, and then it finally did.
Oh my God, you're
Um,
so sweet. Bobby did the
so
same thing. Well, except
really?
okay, I'm choosing to believe that he
Mm.
actually ordered this around the time of my birthday because it just came in literally to the day a month from my birthday. I have a new phone. I haven't had one in five
Ooh,
years. So it's like
Nice.
really, it's really, and it's a Google phone. So I've
Mm.
always only had iPhone. Um, it's really, really nice. And the camera's amazing, which is excellent because my greatest joy is taking pictures of this big giant baby right now. I know. You cannot have a
Well, who
negative.
can blame you?
I know, right? He's just so photogenic. It's insane. He's like, I'm not sure I approve of this endeavor, Mom. Anyways,
Oh no, but we'll try it.
yeah. He's like, I guess
But
it's okay
yeah.
for now. Better than screaming on the bed, right? Yeah, you think that's funny? Faker, faker, faker.
I
Um,
tricked you.
yeah. Oh, that's a pen. Let's not. Every time he's like, "Where's the pen? Where's the
Ugh.
sharpest thing within arm's
Yeah.
reach?"
The most dangerous thing for a baby like me.
Here, do you want your pacifier? There you go. He's like, you
Eat
guys
it.
can you want the ASMR of a baby? Can you hear it? You want his
I can't.
pacifier?
I mean, I can hear him like grunt a little bit, but that's it.
Love you guys. I'll turn it up. Don't worry,
Fascinating.
guys. I'll let you enjoy that. I'll try and turn it up for you guys because it's actually a really cute sound. But of
Mm.
course I probably say that about a lot of things that are not that cute to other people because he's my
Yeah.
child. I don't have any book recs, but I'm happy to report that I did actually make more progress reading First Lie Wins, and it's still really good. It's
Yay.
getting even better, actually. So far so good. So far I'm not removing my recommendation. It is staying a
Good.
recommendation.
It's
Yeah.
holding up as time
Yeah.
goes on.
Yeah, exactly. And I keep being afraid that it's not gonna, since I've been like recommending this book like progressively. I'm like, we're gonna get to like 6 months of me recommending this book, and then I'm gonna be like, and it was garbage.
It's terrible. Don't read it. I take it back. I take it back. And
I
everyone's
take
like,
back
Ash,
the
we already
last.
read it.
I know exactly. I take back the last 6 months. If you guys have already read it and the ending is horrible, I'm okay if you guys want to fill me in on that. I'm not someone who's like, oh my God, no, don't tell me the ending. If it's like really like a letdown, I would rather know because I've got a lot of
Stop
books I want to
now.
read. Yeah, I'm okay stopping right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I will say also, I have some friends that are in a book club that I am only not a part of because I am lazy. And they read Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and
yeah.
opinions were very split. So some people loved it and some people hated it. So
Mm.
if I get the sense that if you are kind of like deep into fantasy, like you read fantasy a lot, you'll really enjoy it. But if it's like your first fantasy book, you probably won't.
Spinning
Um,
Silver.
yeah, it's a Rumpelstiltskin
Interesting.
retelling.
Yeah, that makes sense. I
Hmm.
like that. That feels
Yeah.
original. That feels
Hmm.
unique.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I read Uprooted by her, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and
Hmm.
her retellings are very loose. So you can kind of see the elements as they come up, but it doesn't really follow the progression that you would think it would.
Yeah.
So it's different enough to feel unique, but it does kind of follow some plot patterns that you can kind of anticipate. And so I think it's fun. I really liked Uprooted. So I think I would probably like Spinning Silver. Um, I'm also now second guessing if that's the
Interesting.
title. I'm 90% sure that's the title. It's
If
the
it's not,
Rumpelstiltskin
it should
retelling.
be because that's an
I know
excellent title. If
it
not,
is.
trademark that.
Yeah, exactly. That's it's mine or Naomi Novik's. There's no in between.
It's one of the two. Yeah. Oh,
Um,
that's funny.
but yeah, so I guess that's a book. I mean, I can't really speak to it, but my
It's
bookish
a
friends
it's
liked
a
it.
book rec by
So
proxy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just to give you guys something because, I'm over here failing in the book rec department.
Same.
So
So
yeah.
much same, you guys. And I'm very sorry about that. They're like, why do we even show up? We only come here
Yeah.
for the book recs. Just kidding. They're
This
like,
is a
we have
writing
plenty
podcast.
of books. Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Read. We don't read. We only write.
This
Lol.
this just gives you time to catch up on all the book recs we've given in the past.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
really,
That's
this is for
exactly.
you.
We're just letting you guys get to where we are, to our
Exactly.
level of
Catch
literary
up.
expertise. Um, what about our word of the week? Do we have one of
Our
those?
word of the week is,
One of those wows?
yes, littoral. Littoral. I always say literal, but it's not spelled that way. So it's Littoral, littoral. And it is relating to or situated on a sea or lake shore or a region along a shore. It's like a
Wait, I
littoral
love
house,
that. Oh my
region,
God.
or a littoral ecosystem. I don't know, stuff like that.
A sleepy littoral town ripe for
Yeah.
murder.
Woo! You used it right, and you got murder in there.
I get double points.
Woo!
How can I use this wrong? I could just
I,
replace literally with littorally.
that's what I was gonna say. It's littorally a beach. I don't know.
There was littorally murder in the littoral town.
There you go. Both correct and incorrect.
Oh God, the sweet spot. I love it so much.
Perfection.
I did it. Littoral. I
Uh,
really like that. And that's one that
yeah.
actually I feel like there's a lot of use for.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah,
this like
I
a word that
definitely feel
people
like
use and just I'm a dummy who doesn't use it, or is like this not really a commonly used word?
I've never heard it used in conversation. I feel like I might have heard it or seen it in books occasionally, but I don't, it's probably used a lot in like summer romances or like, stuff that takes place
Ah.
on beaches and shores, which I just tend to not read a lot of. I read stuff that like takes place out in the ocean or
Mm-hmm.
not near the ocean at all. I don't really do shore stuff,
I
but
don't read summer romances. First of all,
yeah.
I rarely read romances, but I don't read things that are even like with a romantic bent that happen in the summer. Because to me, summer means hot, humid, sticky mosquitoes. I'm like, I've never felt so
Ew.
unsexy and unromantic in my entire life.
Yeah,
The
fair
last
enough.
thing I want to read is about romance.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it's probably nicer on a beach, but is
That's
it?
true.
I
I don't
don't
know.
know.
I mean, you have the ocean, which is like a huge boost, but
Hmm.
yeah, do love
Yeah.
the ocean. Riley's not been to the ocean yet. I introduced him when he was still in my tummy a few times, but I don't think
This
he remembers
seems
that.
impossible because I mean, Javi likes the ocean too, right? So
Yeah, he's a
this
surfer.
is an enormous oversight. So,
I know. He's a surfer, a free diver, or like more of a spearfisher than like a technical free diver, and he's a scuba diver. I'm a free diver and a mermaid, and I'm like,
man, get that
we are
kid to the
failing.
ocean.
I know. Just go toss him in.
He should be swimming before he can walk.
Honestly, that was kind of the goal. He actually does. I keep saying he's going to start swim lessons. He's actually going to start swim lessons in June
Mm,
because we're too busy in May and they're on Saturdays. So
yeah.
in June, he's going to start his swimming lessons. But
Uh,
he's going to go play in the water soon because we're going to the Frio River soon, which is beautiful and clear and gorgeous. And he's got a little floaty, and I got little
oh,
floaties for his cousins. So it's
uh,
going to be all these little
you can have
floating
a
babies.
you can have a littoral vacation.
Yes, it is. It is
Yeah.
going to be a littoral vacation. How
Yeah.
exciting. That's so funny. All right. Anything else about word of the week that we want to share, or do we want to get into
Yep.
the theme for today?
Let's get into the theme.
We are so
So,
on top of it. 23 minutes
woo.
in.
All right. This is fast, which is sort of on topic. I don't know. We're talking about
Thematically good.
relevant.
Relevant. I was like, relevant is close. Is supportive of the theme for the episode.
Woo, words.
Thematically supportive, thematically aligned with the theme.
Otherwise known
In
as
thematic
good.
alignment. In thematic alignment, otherwise known as
Woo.
good.
We got there.
And that is how you write, fellas and ladies.
Honestly, that is just the verbal example of the
Process.
process. You're
It
just
really
writing, you're
is.
like, nope, try it again.
Nope.
Nope, try it
Nope.
again.
Yep.
Close. Nope, try it again.
I mean,
Leave a note for yourself. The
and then you
the
go
other
back.
day,
Yeah.
I typed into Google the musical equivalent of aerodynamic, and you would be shocked at how unhelpful it was. But that's the word that I did not find the word I was looking for, but it does exist.
Now
I
it's
just
gonna
don't know what
bother
it is
me.
yet. Yep. So anyway, we're talking about
Thinking about it.
novellas. Woo! As
This
Ash
is
has a small existential crisis.
this is gonna bug me.
You're welcome. Riley's also looking up, like, what is she seeing up there?
It's kind of like melodic, but that's not right.
Right, like harmonious, but not.
Yeah. Oh my God. That's gonna bug me. Okay. I will
Welcome
be
to my
texting you
brain.
later with some
Yeah,
options.
good. I mean, I'm just punishing you to, for my own benefit.
Yeah.
So
That's okay. It's the Catherine in you.
it's true. So yeah, we're gonna talk about novellas and what they qualify as and whether or not you should write them and some tips and tricks, etc. You know the drill.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah.
feel like we need to preface really quickly because there's become this sort of like misconception that novellas refers to like telenovelas.
Oh,
It's different. I've heard a few
yeah.
times people be like novellas, and then I'm like, yeah, and then they start talking about it. And I'm like, oh, you mean like a telenovela? Okay,
Yeah, that's
that's
different.
different. That's more like a soap opera. It's like an episodic soap opera that, is televised.
It's on the tele. This
It's on the
actually makes a
tele.
lot of
Yeah.
sense why people look at me in confusion when I tell them I have written a novella.
Probably because they're
This
thinking like a telenovela. And I
that
think for like the
explains a lot.
non-literary community, I think sometimes people call it that, even though that's
Yeah.
not correct. And it is confusing if you work or operate in like the literary arena at all.
Yeah. Strange. There's so many
So
terms
what?
and terminologies. Today, in the post that I posted on our social media, I unironically used the term protag for protagonist. And I posted and then I was reading it through and I'm like, when did this happen to me? When did I start using slang like this? So there are many industry terms that
That's so funny. Do you want to tell
I
us
feel
what
come
a
up.
novella is now that we've covered what it is not?
Yes. So I actually have a list of the 5 different types of writing. I don't know what to call them. We have flash fiction, short story, novelette, novella, and novel.
Ooh,
So
novelette.
I know. Basically speaking, you can qualify them all in by their word count. So flash fiction is going to be anything under 1,500 words. A short story is 1,500 to 7,500. A novelette is 7,500 to 19,000. A novella is, this is what we're talking about. So listen,
So listen up.
19,000. This is the one. I'm trying to think of a sound effect like we do, but that's not the right one.
Dum, dum,
Um,
dum.
yeah, better. 19,000 to 40,000. And then novels are, of course, over 40,000. They don't really have a cap unless you're querying, which would
And then
probably,
they should have a cap.
then yeah, you need to be careful about that. That's going to be dependent on genre, though.
Yeah.
So these are like despite genre.
Yeah.
So novellas are basically going to be anything between 19,000 and 40,000 words. Um, and I think when in doubt, you look at things like theme and character and plot and all the things we're about to talk about to determine where it lands on that spectrum. Because, if it's like 39,000 words, what do you do with that? Because it's on the border, technically a novella, but what if
Yeah.
it's more in the novel range? Especially when it comes down to like querying, because you
Yeah.
really can't query novellas. Those are basically for indie and established authors.
Yeah.
So,
So do keep that
um,
in mind. If you're like, I'm
mhm,
gonna publish those, that might be either something you're gonna do self-publishing, which is
mhm,
actually fine because I do
mhm,
even think, even if you do get to the point where you're like really, well established, not a lot of people really read shorter fiction. Like it's not as popular.
mhm.
So I don't think it's that big a deal to self-publish. Like anything from like a novella down is not, I don't think that big of a deal to publish.
Yeah. There's sort of like this chicken or the egg thing with most people read short stories or novels, and that's just the way that your brain is kind of wired to see stories, like lengthwise and pacing wise and everything. So
Yeah.
novellas are kind of weird, and that's why they're hard to sell because they're just less popular, and so people don't have a good sense of A, how to write them, and then B, an interest in reading them. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of a weird niche thing where there's definitely a place for them, but I don't know if it's because people inherently don't like them or if it's just a product of the fact that we don't produce them very much. People just don't really think to pick them up. So I don't know. It's
Yeah.
kind of weird, but
Yeah, I mean, I stand by everything you said. It makes a lot of sense.
thank you. I just, my goal in life is just to get Ash on this podcast, just nodding and having nothing to add.
That's correct. I just come on this podcast to learn things that Carissa says and to be her hype man.
Woo.
Hype, hype.
Yeah. Riley's the mini hype man.
Are you mini hype man? He's like, I'm eating a cracker, Auntie Carissa.
Well, good. Correct action because crackers are also just carbs.
Exactly. He did punch himself in the eye with a cracker earlier and was very upset about it for like 5 seconds. And then he was like, that was funny. I was
How
like,
could this
okay.
betray me? He's like, all right, we're friends again.
Exactly. It's like, my cracker. Uh, it was very funny. Um,
Uh,
so
all
that
right,
is a mushy cracker. Gross.
cool. Um,
It feels like it should be like a Shakespearean insult. Thy brains are
um,
but a mushy cracker.
there you go. All right, not only a word of the week, an insult of the
There
week.
you go. He has the backbone of a mushy cracker.
Yes, really anything. I don't know if anything would be positive as a mushy cracker, so really anything could be a mushy cracker.
It's true. It's very, very true.
Yep. All right. So let's see. My notes are super chaotic. Where should I begin? Um, so I word count is technically the difference between a novella and a novel or a short story. We'll focus on those three just for the purposes of this. So just pretend flash fiction and novelettes don't exist
Although for
because,
the record, I do actually enjoy flash fiction.
yeah, they are fun. But
Yeah.
again, they're not like as popular. So it's hard to compare contrast because you guys are going to be like, but we don't even really do flash fiction. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so I think it does come down to like plot and theme, not just word count. Word count is like an easy way. And if you're solidly within the word count somewhere, it's going to be easy to tell. Um, but different word counts give you different um, types of room to do certain things. So I do think that novellas are more focused than novels, and they tend to have more complete endings than short stories, if that makes sense. Because a lot of short stories end, and I think it's actually good for short stories to end on a little more of a sort of like choose your own adventure kind of plot
Yeah.
line where you can decide what happens. You don't
It's very
necessarily get as many
abstract.
answers. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, I think Hills Like White Elephants is a good example of that.
That's an excellent one.
Excellent short story if you guys are
Yeah.
wanting to study those. A lot of Ray Bradbury's stories. I think is it The Velt? Is that how you say that word? That one's also really a good example. It's something like The Lottery by Shirley Jackson. They
Mm-hmm.
kind of end and you're like horrified or like mystified, or you're like, what's gonna happen next? But there's nothing else. So a novella sort of takes that short story idea and brings it a little more full circle and gives it a more complete ending, I would say. Um,
Yeah.
and in comparison to a novel, it doesn't have the same like number of plot threads. So like I really don't think there are subplots in novellas. It's mostly just the
No.
main plot.
Yes,
And
completely agree. And
yeah,
also,
it's
I am a big fan of cutting, cutting, cutting. You guys know
yeah.
that out of like anything. I'm like concise, concise, concise. And I will very, very, very occasionally make an exception for fluff. Very, very
Mhm,
occasionally if it you have a reason, a strategic reason
mhm.
for needing the fluff. And that's only in some cases. I will not, under any conditions, accept fluff in a novella. I won't.
Yes,
It's too
correct.
short for that. It means it
There's just
doesn't
not
need to
enough
be
room.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have the space for it. You got to focus. I do think focus is a good kind of, if you want a single word to think about what the difference is between a novella and a novel, it's focus. You have to be
Hmm.
very focused. You're going to have fewer characters. You're
Yep.
going to have basically one plot. You're really basically going to have one theme. You might have a sub theme, but it's really not going to be discussed. It's going to be mostly like an abstract kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I do think you want to get down to focusing in a novella on all of those things.
Yeah, I think
And
if you don't usually outline, a novella might be a really
mm,
good place to start outlining because you need to make sure that your structure is like tight. And without
yes.
doing some outlining, that's going to be a little bit trickier. But also, and
Hmm.
also it's easier to outline for a novella. So if you're
Hmm.
just getting started outlining, if you're usually a pantser, then maybe this is a good way to sort of dip your toe in the pool of outlining.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Because yeah, it is going to be a shorter outline, and outlining it's I don't know. It depends on what kind of a plotter you are, but outlines for me, if I try to do them, they get really in depth, and then it's just like it bogs me down. So if you're trying to be a plotter, maybe you're saying like, "Hey, I want to, try my hand at this." You're going to just have fewer details to bring in. So yeah,
Yeah,
that would work. Yep.
it's true.
Um, I do. So I don't know what everyone else's experience is, but most of the novellas that I've read are usually like companions in some way to a standalone or a series. And I really like this because it's just fun. You get more in like this
Hmm.
world that you like, right? There, for anyone who's interested, there are novellas in the Darkest Minds universe. So, you can check those out.
I feel like I have a controversial opinion on this, and
Really?
I know that I'm probably in the minority on this. I
Hmm.
don't really like companion novellas.
Really?
I think the reason that they're more prolific than other novellas is because they are companions to
Hmm.
more standard pieces, which, like you were saying before, is easier to publish. And so then I think, yeah, for people who want more, like they have more content, but for me, it feels like a deviation from like
Hmm.
the true storyline. And so I'm
Right.
like, I don't care about this thing that's happening. To me, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel canon. To me, it doesn't feel canon
Hmm.
unless it happens in the main story. And it doesn't matter if it's by the same author and everything, it feels like a fan fiction to me.
Yeah.
And not that fan fiction's not great, but like if I wanted to read fan fiction, I'd go read fan fiction.
Fair enough. Yeah, it does kind of feel like that because it is like like I said, it's very focused. I think you tend to get a lot of novellas that are companions that are based on like side character romances, which we talked about
Mhm.
last episode, or some kind of like historical detail in the world or whatever. And so it's not meant to be like super necessary to understand and enjoy the series, but a lot of times you need to have read and enjoyed the series to read and enjoy the novellas. So they're kind
Yes,
of dependent one way. Um,
very true.
so yeah, I mean that's definitely true. And so you can kind of do without the novellas, but I think they can be fun. I do like them.
Oh,
But
I can see how they would be fun.
yeah.
Absolutely no shade to people who enjoy
Yeah.
like companion novellas. They're just not my speed for reasons
Hmm.
that my brain is broken. I'm happy for everyone who can enjoy them. I wish I could. My brain is too like one track. It's like no, 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 no. That's not what we're
Hmm.
doing here.
Well, they are kind of, they feel sometimes like the thing that wasn't important enough to put into the main series.
Hmm.
So you're kind of like, well, why am I paying attention to this anyway?
Yeah, my
So
brain is like concise, concise, concise.
yeah,
Get to the
this
point.
this is very in character for Ash. This makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so I think if you're going to do novellas like that, obviously not everyone's going to want to read them. I can't tell if this would be a bigger audience or a smaller audience because smaller in the sense that a lot of people just aren't going to care that much.
Hmm.
But I don't know, bigger because you'd already have like a built-in fan base for that
Hmm.
idea,
I think if you have a
you know?
fan base, I want to say bigger because I'm
Hmm.
not that it's in any way like a true scientific poll, but I'm thinking of like all of my close friends who are not shockingly all readers. And of all of
What?
them, as far as I know, I'm the only one who does not like companion
Hmm.
novellas. So if you have a fan base, I would say you would have a wider readership for the novellas because you have
Hmm.
people who have to have read the book that it's a companion to and then the novella. If
Hmm.
you're just writing a novella and it's not a companion to anything, that is going to be a very, very tiny little target
Yeah.
audience you're going for.
It's true. Unless you have like the name recognition.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think like this is my principle for it because I've written some novellas for like my own series and stuff, mostly just because I was trying to maintain connection to the world and I didn't have like a novel idea yet. That's not the way that's normally meant,
She
but
didn't have any novel ideas.
yeah. I didn't have any ideas for novels at the time, and so I wrote them to kind of, um, like sustain myself and then kind of get some details that fit into the series like down a little better to like understand what I was getting at. Um, I would argue that on principle, you shouldn't write novellas just as like a money grab if the series becomes like well known and highly regarded. This is very frustrating when you can tell that it's just like another way to sell a book that's not a book.
Yeah.
Um, I do think there can be novellas that do contribute to the world. And I think this comes down to, is there really something that people would reasonably care about hearing more about? Or is it just kind of more of the same? Um, Not that it's a novella, but like sort of an example was Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer, which was supposed to be Twilight from
Right.
Edward's point of view. It's like, I
No
don't
new
know how, what
information here.
like they have discussions. We kind of already know what he was thinking. Now, granted, I've not read it, but I read Twilight, but not Midnight Sun. So it just feels a little unnecessary to have that level of detail. But if there had been some kind of novella or companion to, Jacob's side of the story, or although he does get a point of view at some point,
He does.
um, just like a little, like a side character or someone tangential, I think that would be more
I think
useful. I think she
Leah
did
is her
the,
name. I think Leah would be
oh
a good
yeah,
novella character.
yeah, the one of the
Yeah.
werewolves. She
Yeah.
also did, what was her name? Bree something? The short life of the one that dies in like book three. She's like a new
Hmm.
fledgling, which I don't know.
Yeah,
She
yeah,
did
yeah.
that. I didn't read that either, but that seems to make more sense because
That
maybe
yeah.
there is an interesting story there that
Yeah.
would reasonably not be important to the main series, but is something that
Yeah.
maybe we would like to know.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it's a
So
hard balance because you want it to be something you want to provide new information, but
right.
you don't want to provide information that's so new that it doesn't align with the like sort of hints that you've already dropped about that character, their personality, their history. Like you want to take the things that you've sort of like barely touched on, and then you want to expand them in a way
Mhm.
where you're telling a bunch of new information.
Right.
But like with Edward, the reason I was also not really attracted to reading the book was because like I feel like we get a pretty clear impression of how he's feeling and thinking. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
like I wonder what Edward's thinking. You
Yeah.
know,
Gosh, she's
Bella
such a
was,
mystery.
but I was like, luckily me, I could read a book. I don't
Yeah.
need to. I don't
I
need to guess.
understand what's going on here.
He's very emotional. It's very evident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I would just say like if you're thinking about writing a novella, you want to do it in a way that is like still conducive to like the world you're building and the story you're telling instead of just like conducive to your career. Is that what I want to say? I just I don't like it when the novellas feel like they were super
Frivolous.
unnecessary. Yes, frivolous, that's a good word. Look at Ash coming
Superfluous.
back. He knows words.
I'm gonna get to
Um,
that musically aerodynamic one
yeah.
eventually.
One day. But yeah, I don't like it when they feel frivolous. I like it when it feels reasonable. So here's my example, and I'm gonna forget the names of most of them, which is strange. So in the Darkest Minds world, there's Through the Dark, which is a series of I think three novellas, and they take place from various other points of views of the characters. And one of them is from the point of view of Sam, which if you guys have read the books, she's basically Ruby's childhood best friend. And she's really not involved in the series. And I remember that when Ruby kind of leaves her behind and goes on her little adventure, I remember thinking, like, what about Sam? Like, I want Sam to come back. Like, they'd spent so much time together and there was this friendship built that you kind of wonder. And she brings Sam up enough that you're kind of wondering about her occasionally. And so when there was a novella that came out about what Sam is going through once Ruby is gone, I enjoyed it and I liked it and I did feel like it added to the story because it wasn't necessary to understand where we were going in book three, but it was just fun extra information about a character that we've been relatively well introduced to, but not given any conclusion to, if that makes sense. So I think that would be a good example if you're thinking about some kind of companion novella and how to do that, where it's a side enough character that we don't need the novella to understand what's going on, but we care enough about them to actually read the story,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think too, in that case, like the difference between I think you can add Easter eggs to novellas in this case, but not subplots, if that makes sense. So like you can have little like throwbacks to like mentioning a character that appears in another book or mentioning some kind of event that happened in another book, but you can't go into that as a major plot point, if that makes sense.
I
Because
agree.
it's just, again, the subplots don't work, but I do think the Easter eggs can be fun. And I think that's what I like about companion novellas because you kind of, you know, they mention that character and you're like, ah, I love this person. I'm so excited they're, you're kind of reading it
I
just to
agree.
hear the mention of their name, which is kind of
Yeah,
obsessive and weird, but very
that is what
satisfying.
I like. I agree. That's the part of
Yeah.
me that's like, okay, I could read a novella because if
Mhm.
it's like for like that same with fan fiction, I'm like, oh my God, it's
Mhm.
the character. So I
Yeah.
think that's pretty universally appealing.
Mhm. So yeah, Easter eggs, but no subplots. Um, And again, I think this is why romances tend to be very strong in novellas. You want to focus on few characters instead of a lot. So again, two characters is pretty solid. Maybe three, maybe
Hmm.
four, but
Yeah.
I don't even know that I would go to four. I mean, you want to be aside from like just, normal people wandering around in the world around them. I don't know that you want any kind of focus to be on more than two or three.
Yeah.
Um,
The only book
so
that I wrote that was, I mean, it was like 48,000 words when it was done. And then I think I got it to 50. I cut it down. Then I think I got it back up to like 52,000 or something. So it's like barely in like the novel range, but it's also only two people.
mhm.
And I'm sure I could cut it down again.
Is this the car ride?
Yeah,
The
it's that one.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'd really
just two
love that
people.
one.
Thank
You should
you.
query that one.
I
Anyway,
know. That's what everyone keeps. Maybe I will. I kept being like, I'm gonna wait and I'm gonna query it after I already have an established audience. But it's also the only one that everyone is like, yeah, hands down, you need to query that. So my mom got a tattoo for
it's
it
good.
for my
That's
unpublished
right.
manuscript. So
I mean, it's one of those that like it would be a really good example of how to do like two characters really well, right? Like it's the dynamic is really well done, right? But again, also word count is shorter. So that's kind of like the more characters, the more word count you need. So if you're going to have a
Mhm.
novella that's less than 40,000 words, you have to
Yeah.
really pick and choose the characters you want in there.
Yeah. Well, and here's a good here's a you mentioned earlier, and because I'm having an idea about it now, I'll say it now. Like if you have a book that's like on the cusp of being a novel or a novella, you could either A, cut, which I think
Hmm.
is actually easier than writing more, but I guess it depends on your strengths as a writer and editor. And also you usually get a tighter story. But if you're like, no, I really want to be able to query this and I want it to be published traditionally as a novel, do not write fluff. This is not what I'm about to say.
Yeah.
Do not write fluff. But
Do
maybe
not do
think
it. Attention.
exactly attention, everybody, excuse me, don't do it. But maybe there's a room for another subplot as long as the
Mm,
subplot makes sense to be happening along with the regular plot. Like
yeah.
in this book, I'm not going to tell you guys that much about it, but basically there's a kidnapping in this book, and the whole book takes place basically between these two characters, the kidnapper and the kidnappee victim, whatever.
Kidnappy, I like.
The kidnappee. Um, and so it's really, really short. And I have I foolishly tried to make it longer, but ruined the quality. Made it shorter again. It's good. I can almost always cut things shorter, but that's not what I'm trying to do. But I realized in everything has a ripple effect. So when this person is kidnapped, it's going to set off a chain of pretty dramatic things that are happening for her friends and loved ones
Hmm.
who are trying to find her. So I'm thinking what I might do is include some chapters throughout from the perspective of either the investigators or her friend who she was with when she was kidnapped as she's working
Hmm.
with police or something. So it's a totally valid subplot. It's something that would already naturally be happening as a result
Hmm.
of the primary plot. And and it has enough like dramatic value to be something that's potentially of interest to readers.
Right.
So I think that might be how I try and make this book a little longer,
Hmm.
without adding any sort of fluff and also without just choosing some arbitrary subplot that nobody cares about that much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to detract from like the original idea that you started with, right? It needs to
Mm-hmm.
be something that like balances it out or emphasizes it or something. That's how subplots work in general. But
Yeah.
yeah, with like I do think the difference between novellas and novels is how many subplots there are. So if
Yeah.
you do have a novella, a good way to turn it into a novel is adding subplots for
Yeah.
sure.
Just be
Um,
careful about what subplot you choose because you don't want it to
mhm.
feel frivolous. And if you choose the
Yeah.
wrong subplot, well, it might not be fluff to you. It could read as fluff. So
Hmm.
I think carefully about what subplots make sense or subplot if you just want to add one, like I'm going to try and do, how
Yep.
often you're going to incorporate that because I'm hoping that I don't have to incorporate it too much. It'll just be like a little like chance to breathe between like these
Yeah.
really like intense like kidnapping scenes.
Like a pause.
Yeah, like a pause, but I'm not envisioning more than like four or five in like the whole
Hmm.
book. And so frequency, number of subplots, and then the type of subplot, just to make sure it doesn't read like fluff. Because if you have a shorter novel, that's probably working for you. I mean,
Hmm.
that's especially if it's the first thing that you're publishing, but usually a shorter story is a tighter story in most cases. So,
Right. And I would imagine it's somewhat easier to sell to readers, probably to the agent, probably to a publishing house, but probably to readers because a lot of readers are going to be hesitant to pick up like a 400 or 500 page book from a new author because they just don't know if they can trust your pacing or your writing or
mhm.
anything yet. So giving them a taste in like a shorter style novel can be a good way to kind of lure them in. That makes it sound nefarious, but just to like, just reel them in a
Come
little
read
bit.
my book, little reader. It's only 100 pages long.
No harm can come to you here. And then you get emotionally destroyed by that ending.
It's true. And that is actually also true. I feel like that maybe it's just I don't know. I'm not gonna say there's like any like rules for how specifically to do this, but I do think that there's an expectation that the shorter the book, the more emotional impact it should have.
Yeah.
Like if you have a short book and its ending is kind of like meh, general, whatever. It's kind of like I don't know, it just feels unfinished. But if
Hmm.
it has a really emotional impact at the end, it's like, oh my gosh, how meaningful that such a short work can have such an impact.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I don't
I
really think that's something that you can super like manufacture in the sense that
hmm
like if your story doesn't have like emotional meaning, it doesn't have emotional meaning. Maybe pick a new
Yeah.
story. But
I mean, all stories need to have some emotional meaning, but I do agree that like again, the more focused you are in characters or theme or plot, it's just that's all that's where all your attention and all your energy are going as the reader. So when that turns or when something happens that you're not expecting, that's the entire story, right? Like if there's a subplot and something goes wrong in the main plot, you still kind of have that subplot for like an anchor, right? Where things still feel like, okay, this is still the same story. Things are kind of still chugging along where I thought they would go here. So it's like a comfort factor. But if it's the entirety of the story and that turns, then it just shifts your whole perspective. And I do think that's where a lot of emotional impact probably lies.
yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point. How do you feel about genres for novellas? Because I was thinking obviously fantasy and sci-fi and speculative fiction in general has a longer word count in the novel range. So I think it's actually quite difficult to do in novella form. And I
Yeah.
certainly don't know if you should do multiple genres, like, you know, I don't know, a murder mystery plus a fantasy or whatever, right? Like I love that in novel
Yeah.
form,
But that feels like a
but
lot for a novella
unless it's a companion and the world is already really well built
established.
and it's already
Yeah,
yeah, people already know. I don't
that's
know. What
true.
do you think?
I agree because otherwise it takes so many words to establish the setting. Unless the setting
Hmm.
is like really similar to everyday life. I think that's probably why a lot of like more successful short stories and novellas, even if they have a fantasy twist, they're more considered magical realism because it's
Yeah.
like fantastical or scientific or science fiction elements in a really familiar world. Because
Hmm.
otherwise, you quote unquote waste. It wouldn't be waste in a novel, but it is kind of waste considered in a novella to have like a
Yeah.
bunch of description, a bunch of exposition and world building.
Hmm.
So I think like if you really want to write like a fantasy novella, maybe consider how you can take the like fantastical elements of your story and incorporate them into a real world or at least a more familiar environment.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it is because you guys know this, I love world building and it's so hard to do in novella form because you would be surprised at how many words you spend on world building in a novel. Like it's a lot. And you really just can't, like you said, waste the word count on that. Like it has to be focused on plot or character or something else a little more direct.
Yeah.
So yeah, the more familiar the world is, like you don't have to describe to someone what a door is, but you might have to describe to them how the door works on the spaceship. So that's just going to take up double, triple the words.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, but I think this is probably why another reason romance works, because romance doesn't really require that you give a lot of world building detail, even if it's a fantasy romance. It
Mm-hmm.
just, or a sci-fi romance, it's
The
just not as
focus is on
important.
the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
So
think
that's
that's
probably why it
largely true
works.
for novellas. I think also
Hmm.
there's more like you can have more plot focused novels. I think novellas tend to be more character focused and more like
Hmm.
relationship focused, even if it's not romantic.
Yeah.
It's just such a narrower scope. It's like you're looking through a telescope and you're
Yeah.
looking at, the people in the story. It's usually one or two, maybe three people. And so, of
Right.
course, their relationships with each other are going to play really heavily into the content of the novella.
Hmm. Yeah. I agree. Um, so yeah, I guess I don't know. Did you have anything else to say about that? Because I have a point that's not related.
No, but I do want to just say, boy, oh boy, I almost won Worst Mommy of the Year award because my child fell asleep in my arms and I'm looking at him and he's got a pen mark on his eyebrow. That's how close he came to stabbing himself in the eye with my pen.
Oh no. Well, saved by the eyebrow.
My gosh. Okay, continue.
Yeah, no, good segue. Do. So I guess my kind of, I don't know, island of a point is that pacing in novellas is going to be a little bit different. A lot of times in novels, you want to pace things out a little slower. And that sounds kind of strange because you want fast pacing a lot of times, especially for certain genres, but you want like rest periods in novels. Like you were saying, just kind of have like, okay, let's go to a different character's point of view for a second, or, review what's going on over here, give them like a down moment. I don't know that novellas really have time for that.
Mm-mm.
It's basically action all the time. And if it's, if there's this large time gap, you need to just like, you know, run past that time gap, just like time
Yeah.
jump, do a
You do,
page
yeah,
break
pretty much just
or
time jumps. Yeah.
yeah, like a one sentence that goes over a month or two, like you have to have some kind of um what's the word? Not regular, but just like faster pacing, I guess. Um, so I would be free with time jumps and things happening in quick succession. Either make it something that happens over only a few days,
Hmm.
which I think is again one of the reasons your story worked because it doesn't take place over that many days.
Yeah.
Or just do a lot of time jumps. And I mean, you don't
Yeah.
want to go overboard with them unnecessarily. If you can fit the same story into 5 days, do it in 5 days, not 5 months.
Yeah.
But if it does require that time, then come up with good breaking points.
Yeah. I think
To
you don't have
just
to transition the same way. Like you can,
mhm,
instead of like building out a full transition, like a much shorter time jump is perfectly acceptable in a novella. Whereas
mhm,
if you transitioned between times like that in a novel, it would feel lazy. In a
mhm,
novella, it is important and
yeah,
you just need to. And it's just it's that is probably I think one of the big differences between writing a novella and reading one is the way that transitions happen. Because there's
mhm,
no like easing you in and out of transitions. Like it should be fluid, but it should be fast. We're not taking any time
yeah.
on the transition. Oh my god.
Your your face went so weird for that. Um,
You good?
poor baby. He doesn't like transitions.
No, he doesn't.
But yeah, that's it. So do you think that novellas should use like chapters? I didn't even think about this before. Like,
Mm,
or just page breaks, or just be one long
honestly,
story.
I don't think they need chapters. I think just
Okay.
page breaks are fine or section
Mm-hmm.
breaks.
Yeah.
Thing is, I say this because when I wrote my novella, even though it was on the longer side for a novella, oh my God, trying to make it novel length and put in chapter headings was so difficult. It's kind
Mm-hmm.
of like what you were just saying about like if you can make it happen in 5 days, make it happen in 5 days rather than 5 months. Like it's supposed to be fluid. It's supposed to happen quickly, but it's supposed to happen fluidly. Like a
Mm-hmm.
novella is something that you can sit down, you read it in one go. It's not
Yeah.
usually something you're going to pick up and put down a bunch of times to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really need the chapter breaks so much. It kind
Right.
of feels like it also kind of feels like wasted space to have a chapter break in a novella.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe that's just my personal opinion, but I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that you need any chapter breaks.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't have like super strong opinions. I put chapter breaks in mine, but now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if they're necessary. I'm just so used to writing novels that like, of course you need chapters.
See, and I
But
tend to lean the other way anyways. Like
yeah,
I tend to like be like, "Oh, it's been 50 pages since I put in a chapter break.
let's
Might
take
need
a
to do
break.
that."
So wrap this up and then start again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's interesting. I don't know. I feel like that one might depend on the story, and how natural those breaks are.
Yeah.
So maybe only have like 3 chapters and it's during a time gap or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know
I
how to
think the other
organize
thing
that.
is like it feels like you have to maybe not transition like more like a chapter break, it's not a fluid break. It's like a hard break, you know? So that though
Yeah.
it's technically not more words, it kind of interrupts the fluidity of the novella reading experience. Whereas like if you just do, even if you're doing like a fast, like and you're doing time jumps, like it's just more fluid. But
Hmm.
it's I think it's probably like you said, like it depends on the case and it might be preferential too.
Yeah. It might even depend on if you're going for fluid or not. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I definitely think novellas work best, or at least generally best, when they are going, like you said, like fluid, quick pacing, 5 days, not 5 months. Um, but maybe that's not what you're going for. Maybe you're going for like snapshots throughout someone's life, or,
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. So maybe
Yeah.
that would be a
I
different
could see using
situation.
chapters in that case. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, Also, points of view. Should there be multiple points of view? I wouldn't think so. I think that might be too heavy. Have I read any novellas with multiple points
Maximum
of view?
two. I think
Yeah,
maximum two. You could do it. I don't know that
yeah,
it's advisable. I think this is
right.
one of those where like it depends on the situation very
Yeah.
much. I would say usually probably not. And it also
Hmm.
probably depends on how long of a novella. A shorter novella, like a shorter to mid-length novella? No.
Hmm.
If you're going for like a mid-length to longer novella, maybe you can
Maybe.
incorporate 2 points of view. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I would say maybe two, and I don't know, people have strong opinions about this. Maybe you guys will disagree or Ash will disagree, who knows. If you do have multiple points of view, like we said, like keeping with the fluidity idea, maybe you don't like mark chapters by the point of view. You just kind of go into the points of view, right? Like either through section breaks or like even what is it called? Man, I'm gonna forget what it's called now when you shift points of view is in the middle of a paragraph. Um, there's a word for it, but I can't think of it right now.
I don't know.
The Dark is Rising series does it a lot, if anyone knows what that is by Susan Cooper. But maybe like a more fluid break, like not even a break at all, just like fluidly going into different points of view would be better because then you don't spend like space and time on changing points of view. And I wouldn't
Yeah.
change, I don't know, often. It would just be more like as the story goes, like maybe you have two points of view and it sandwiches like Ash and I do at the beginning of the podcast.
Eh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean some of these are like it'll depend,
It
but
depends. It's just sort of that
good to
idea
think
of like
about.
narrow focus. So if you're expanding the
Yeah,
focus to include not just multiple characters, but multiple perspectives, that's a much
it's a
broader
lot.
scope than I think
Mhm,
is usually conducive to like a really gripping novella. There
mhm.
could be exceptions. I just feel like probably for the most part, better to just stick to a single perspective.
Yeah. And at the very least, just like you need to think about it beforehand because I do feel like, when you're writing novels a lot, or even maybe if you're writing short stories a lot or whatever you write a lot of, you get into certain habits and it doesn't occur to you that it might change depending on the length or the genre or whatever. So just think about point of view and chapter breaks and section breaks and, time jumps and all that kind of stuff because you're probably in some kind of habit from whatever else you write and probably from whatever you read a lot of that you might just start like I did, just putting in chapter breaks without really thinking about it. So you at least want to kind of think about it purposefully beforehand.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
yeah, that's all I had to say.
Oh,
So
sweet.
there's some pages. Woo. I don't know if that
Nice.
sounded good, but
ASMR.
yeah.
ASMR to my child snoring. Just kidding. I won't do that to you guys. He's actually not snoring right now. He does snore though, which is very funny.
uh,
I like how every time there's like any sort of pause or transition, I'm like, time to talk about Riley.
look at my baby.
He's the cutest. All right. So if we've got nothing else to say about novellas, look at us keeping it concise, just like a novella should be.
Woo,
Um,
on theme,
on theme, do you have?
thematically appropriate. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I keep
no, it's okay.
interrupting.
You're good. I interrupted
I'm
you
like, how
several
can we
times.
drag this out into a novel length episode?
That's literally me every time. I'm like, oh, good, we're doing short. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, time for me to add other things that have nothing to do with what we're
Yeah.
talking about. Do you have?
Sorry. Just keep going.
Uh,
I'm done.
Not me just lifting my eyebrows waiting for her to talk again. Do you have any writing update?
Do I? I am heavily in the stages of writer's block. So that's been fun.
Welcome to
Um,
my world.
I think what it is I think I told you guys this a while back. A family friend hired me to edit his like I don't know how to describe it. It's not really a memoir, but it's like blog posts that he put into story form from when
Hmm.
he was like going through cancer treatments and stuff. And so
Oh.
he hired me to edit it and I've been doing that. And I think it's just like the mix of nonfiction with fiction, just my brain doesn't work with that. And because I like
Mm-hmm.
at work, I'm doing nonfiction all the time. My brain is just like fiction doesn't exist. We're just going to put that over here and not think about it. So I'm finally saying like, okay, I just need to finish it. And like right now I'm on like the brain dead brainless parts where I'm just fixing formatting at this point, so I don't really
Mm-hmm.
even have to have my brain on. I can just put music on and like change
That is
formatting
nice.
things.
Oh, I
So I'm
love
like,
that.
oh, I just need to get it done so that I can like give it to him and then like work on my own stuff again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's been I'm very frustrated with myself, which is stupid because like I also think I said this before that like I kept writing books because I knew that eventually the inspiration or the mood would kind of die off. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I want to take advantage of it while it's here, which is why I haven't read in like 6 months. But I wanted it to end after I finished a book, not in the middle of a book I'm writing. You know what I mean? Like I can't
Yes.
mentally move on until I finish this book now. And I had it in my head that like my deadline was before my cousin's wedding, I'll have this book done so that it's just like compartmentalized in my brain. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just have this self-imposed deadline that doesn't matter, but it feels like it's coming up. And I'm like, okay, I have to rush and I have to hurry. And I totally don't, but I feel like I do just for sanity's sake. So that's where I am.
Yes, welcome to my world. I
Yeah.
completely relate to everything that you just said, like 100%. I am stuck in the middle of three books.
Yeah.
And it's not that I don't still have like inspiration for them, but it's not like when I started writing them, and I'm like a decent
hmm
way into each of
Yeah.
these books too. And I'm still gonna finish them. I just
hmm
yeah.
It's just not happening right now. And it's
Yeah.
so I do this thing now where when I start a new book, I buy like 20 songs to be the playlist for them so that I kind of stay in the same like mood and groove and whatever. So
Yeah.
whenever the songs come on, I just have these very specific moments in the story that like, the song would play in the movie version or whatever, right? And
That's so
then I
cute.
I don't know how to get past Rain right now because there's no song for it. So like I can't even like imagine it or like brainstorm because I'm just like,
Yeah.
well, there's no song for this. I know what's happening next, but I don't know how to get there. And I once I get past this one part, it'll be fine because I have songs for everything else.
Yeah.
But I can't write out of order. So I'm just stuck here until I figure
Interesting.
that out. So,
I know we've talked before about like making like playlists for the books that you're writing, but in my
mhm,
head I've always just done it like it would be like in theme. But now I'm thinking like, what if I like scored my
mhm.
outline with
Yeah.
music? Is that what you're doing? Because that
I
actually sounds great.
I kind of do. So the one I'm working on right now is so it's a standalone, and it's the first standalone I've written, I think, where there's like a big battle at the end, right? So most of the others have been like, I don't know, I think they're fun and interesting anyway, but this is like a war like between two like political factions, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
have all these like epic cinematic style songs, and I like have all these very specific like war things that are going on in my head, and I just want to get to the end because I think it's going to be a really cool scene. So most of the music is about like that quote final battle scene, but there's this moment when one of the characters like shows up in town and I'm like this song is perfect for that. So I literally just have on repeat in my head just this guy walking into town, which isn't even like a an interesting thing except, for
Unless
like
it's an
4
old
seconds.
Western. I mean, in an old Westerns, that's big news.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that style where he kind of shows up and everyone's like, "What? No, like we don't want this." It's like a guy from a neighboring kingdom and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, we don't want him here."
This town ain't
Um,
big enough for the two of
yeah,
us.
exactly, except non-Western style. But
Yeah.
so it's like certain moments. I wouldn't say that like every moment it has a song for it, but like the epic ones do, if that makes sense, because
Nice. Yeah, that
that's
makes
the way the
sense.
songs go. Yeah.
I wonder, maybe I need to try that.
hmm It's
Yeah.
very fun. But then I
Yeah.
also feel like I'm on a timeline because if I if I start listening to a song, I listen to it obsessively, which is why I have to get them in like batches of like 10 to 20 because otherwise it's just insane. And
Mm-hmm.
then I kind of get tired of them usually about a month or two in. And that's when I buy new playlists. So I'm just like, well, I have to finish this book before this playlist feels old.
Yeah,
So,
that's so funny.
yeah.
My problem has always been with listening to music, even music that's like in theme, has
Mhm.
been that as soon as I even remotely know the melody, I will sing it. And it doesn't matter if it's an instrumental or not. I've tried
Yeah.
that and I will sing the melody with
Right. You just
nonsense words.
sing the violin,
Yeah,
obviously.
exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
I don't need help with sound effects. I'm really, really good at it. So there has always been that kind of problem, but maybe if I like view it more as like it's not just like a general like soundtrack for writing this book. It's like I'm scoring this book as if it were a
Yeah.
movie. Maybe that will be more effective and keep me a little more structured.
I do. I mean, it helps me. It's been nice for me to do it. If one day I ever sold the movie rights, it would totally fall flat in comparison because they would never get all the songs that I want them to get. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
ruining the prospect for myself, but it helps with the writing
Mm-hmm.
process, which is really what
Yeah.
matters. So,
Yeah. I did used to say that that book that I was talking about that like it was like between novella and novel length. It's
mhm.
got because it all happens like in the car like on a road trip type thing. There's like a bunch of different songs that are mentioned in it and I feel like it's just like already like primed for the best
Yes.
score ever. So I'm also
Yes.
like this should be a movie, just producers everywhere.
Obviously. So this just to keep in theme where I just talk about the Darkest Minds for no reason. So you would think that the Darkest Minds has a perfect soundtrack built in, right? They're on basically a road trip and they're talking about all these basically classic rock songs. And none of them were in the movie. I assume because I couldn't get the rights to them. They made it way too modern, and that's really my main reason why I didn't like the movie as much. I mean, really, it was never going to live up to the book, so I don't know if there was anything they could have done to make me happy. But, but
Happier. They could
yeah, like
actually use the songs
the,
referenced in the book.
exactly, like that's the vibe of the book. And so when you change the music, the movie just feels like way too modern and way too like pop, and that's just not the atmosphere of the story.
Yep.
So, I mean, I feel I have so many complaints with book to movie things and
Oh,
Hollywood
I
and
know.
movies.
I
I
know.
just
Don't
wish
get me
they would care
started.
like a little bit. So, that's a different topic though. So, how is your writing going?
Well, it's not.
Yeah.
Which is not shocking, but I will say this. I am making wonderful strides with the help of a therapist to set like reasonable expectations for myself. Like
Ah,
I cannot work more than full time because I've been working crazy overtime.
mhm.
Take care of my sweet little babadoo,
Of
also
course.
full time. Keep myself reasonably clean and reasonably fed and clothed. And even exercise, which I'm trying to do like at least once a
Mhm.
day. And
Right.
also, spend any sort of time or effort on my husband, which, as they expect for some reason when you're married. I don't know what that's about. So weird.
Crazy. It's weird.
Crazy. Very
What a
strange.
baby.
I know, seriously, right? Like so needy. Oh my God.
He basically just side note, he basically sent out a text to our D&D group today that was just like a cry for attention from Ash.
Was literally,
So
he was
funny.
like, poke, 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 poke. And I was
Uh,
working per usual, so I didn't see it. And then all of a sudden I look and I'm like, you mother effer. Like, what did he say? Something like so many billion women in the world and things still aren't clean.
yeah. And Maddie and I, her sister and I were like kind of responding, and I was like, weird that Ash hasn't said anything. And then you did, and he was like, ah, there she is.
Like literally just wanted to get a reaction out of me.
Hmm.
So then that's not shocking. That's kind of our relationship. But yeah, it's weird. Like husbands
Yeah.
want attention, and it's like if you don't give it to them, they're gonna get it anyway.
Ugh, annoying. But what? But okay, I guess like you made a commitment and stuff.
Yeah, I guess I like signed like a legal binding contract that I'll give him attention.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I do give him attention. But yeah, but things like, like spending time with your husband or like he does like he's not much of a cook. He's been cooking more lately, which has been very helpful. But like there are certain things I know he really likes. So being like, okay, I'm gonna cook a few times a week, or I'm gonna make breakfast for most days of the week because it's so funny. He's like, I love plain toast and eggs. Like, all right, that's about
Yum.
2.5 minutes prep work for me, so I don't mind doing that every
This is
morning.
perfect for everyone.
It works out for everyone. And he loves it. He's a creature of habit. But like little
Hmm.
things like that just like the even the mental load is
Hmm.
just like insane.
Yeah.
Um anyways, so all that to say, I have not planted anything in my garden.
Oh.
And I need to because of the stupid raccoon and because
Mm.
one of the dogs broke into the chicken run and didn't eat the chickens, but they left the hole. And some of the chickens got out, and some of them came back, and some of them didn't. Some of them have been reappearing just randomly dead. The dogs are like, "Look what I found!" And I'm like, "Dang it!"
Oh.
Yeah,
Another dead body. Darn.
dang it! Another corpse is in our yard. Oh.
Ugh.
I
Farm
do wonder if
life.
the trash men who like come and like pick up the trash, if they're like, why does it always smell like death over here? Should we maybe search their trash one of these days? And they're gonna like find like chicken corpses, and they're gonna be like, they're doing rituals or something.
It's a cult.
I
Run.
think about it every single time, and everyone's like, "That's
Maybe
so
the raccoons
mean."
are in a cult.
They probably are. They're like time to go sacrifice. Where's
Shed
the
the
new
blood of the
initiate?
innocent.
Shed the blood of the and they shed the blood. And it's not that I'm like so callous that I'm like, it's not sad when my chickens die, but it's been a while since I've been like genuinely like like really like upset
Mhm.
about it because it
You're
just
like, well, this
happens
is
so
the 10th
much.
death this month. I guess I'll
Yeah.
bury my emotions.
Yep. Bury the boy, bury the boy. And so yeah, that's a John Mulaney quote for anyone who's interested. Um Al, our rooster. That's where I was going with this. He was our big, beautiful rooster. If you could call a male rooster buxom, he was. He was my beautiful, buxom male rooster, or obviously because roosters are all male. And his name was Al, short for Alabaster. And he was beautiful. He was like the most iconic farm rooster. And he was
Mhm.
such a good boy. And he protected me from Rufio, this little dumbass rooster. And he died a little while ago. And I will say he was the first time ever that an animal's died. And I've been like, meh. I was like, I don't
Cool.
really care.
Yeah.
I think he was old when we got him, so I think he died from old age. If not, it's possible that Al did him in because Rufio would attack me every time I came into the coop, and then Al would chase
Aw,
him off
he
because Al was
protected
a
you.
wonderful rooster. Yeah. But I found him and he clearly put up a fight, but it looks as if the raccoon got to him. Or the
Oh,
Colt raccoon initiate. Perhaps it's a different one.
gosh, I hate colts. I hate
I
raccoon
know.
colts. They
I
ruin
know.
everything.
God, seriously. Someone needs to do something about that.
This is really unfair. Life is unfair.
Yeah. Oh wait, I have to do
Well,
something about it. They're my chickens. So hence the chicken tractor. But that to say, the chicken tractor can only hold 6 chickens. So we're pretty close to only having 6 chickens. Actually, I think we do only have 6 chickens, including the one remaining rooster who I don't like. His name is Spot, and he used to be nice, but now he's a butt.
well,
So
he
I'm
witnessed the
thinking,
murder of so many of his family members, Ash.
yeah, but so did the hens, and they're not mean. So what's
Well,
his excuse? Testosterone or whatever roosters have? He's a butthead. He tries to attack. I raised him from a little baby chick. No
oh,
respect.
no. How dare.
How dare. I'm like genuinely offended by him. Oh, but anyways, I have just told myself that it is okay to not have a garden. Even this, if I don't garden this whole year. And
Mhm.
even if we just have the chicken tractor and we just have 6 chickens and just enough eggs for like us and some family, like that's fine. And there
Yeah.
is no, and just because I don't have a garden and chickens right now this year doesn't mean that I won't. Doesn't mean that I don't still love living out here on this property in the country and that I will not in the future. But right
Yeah.
now, my primary focuses are work, my baby, my husband, and my mental health, which also includes writing. So that's nice. So it all
Mhm.
does come back to writing. But I because I'm working so many extra hours because I'm trying to get this promotion so I can get a raise
Hmm.
and we can build our house sooner. And we talked to
Yeah.
contractors a couple weeks ago. So it's
Ooh.
all good news so far. It looks like, fingers crossed, maybe fall, we'll get to start actually building, which would
Yay.
be amazing. It's going to be a long process because we're doing this out of pocket, which is
Mhm.
also why this raise would really help. So
Mhm.
hence I am working an extra like 2 to 4 days most 2 to 4 days 2 to 4 hours most days. um Anyways, so I'm choosing that over my farm stuff right now and my mental health, which means I exercise once a day and I write or read once a day. And so far
Good
I've read
stuff.
twice a day since I've like set up these new boundaries for myself and I've decided I'm not going to feel bad about not gardening or having a ton of chickens right now because it's not going anywhere, you know?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
my
It's
property
just
isn't going
stress.
anywhere. And just
Yeah.
because I don't like utilize the whole property doesn't mean
Mhm.
I'm being wasteful or ungrateful. It
Yeah.
means I'm understanding my current capacity.
Although
Um,
accurate mindset, like I do that all the time. I'm like, I have this thing. I must use this thing. Otherwise, I am ungrateful and wasting it. And it's like,
yeah.
but it's still going to be there in a few
Yeah.
years or months or whatever. Like it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So if anyone needed to hear that, do take that one to heart because if you can really embrace that, not that I'm great at it all the time, I still feel the stress there, like, hello, knocking.
Yeah.
But I'm like, no, you are not logical at all. You
I
go
know that you're a
away.
ghost. Go away.
Get out of here. Yeah. So happy to say it's not exactly a writing update. It's more just like a mental health update.
Yep.
But it affects my writing because read or write is what I put time for every single day now, and I have read ever since I've made this rule. So
Mhm.
I'm doing really, really good. And so I'm sure
Yeah.
I'll write also. So, anyways, very happy with myself about that.
Cool.
That's my update. Do you guys like how this is always
Nice.
turning into Ash's like mental health corner? I feel like it's always turning into this is what Ash learned in therapy.
Exactly. I feel like
Because
you
I'm
should
not
dedicate a book
writing
to your
right now.
therapist.
I really should. There's been like 2 really good ones, and this one I'm with right now is she's really, really good, and I love her.
Yeah.
She's awesome. I like want to tell
Well,
the whole world who she is, but then I'm like, that is that
right.
like some kind of
You can't do that.
confidentiality thing? I don't know.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I sorry, I have to
Oh,
kiss my baby.
baby.
He's adorable. He's like, where am I?
Oh, I know you.
Yeah, he's like, "Oh, am I still? You're still talking, mom?"
Crazy.
Yeah. He's like, "Mom, I don't care about your mental health." That's not true.
He doesn't know what mental health is yet.
No, he
He's like,
doesn't
I'm just
care.
happy to exist. So
He's just happy. He just wants everyone to be happy, and I think that's
mm,
great. Big stretch, big arm wave.
never change, Riley.
Yeah, never change. He's like, "Okay, I won't."
Let me just grow another 5 inches in the next couple months and then
Yeah.
I'll stop.
The only part of me that's gonna change is my height.
Yeah.
And that's never gonna stop, right? He's like, "Don't talk to me." He's like rubbing his eyes. He's like, "I just woke up, mom. Don't shove the microphone in my face." Mwah. Okay. Um, I think that's it for my sort of writing corner. Is there anything else that you want to say?
Nope, that's it for me.
Right, sweet. Well, first of all, I hope you all are enjoying hearing my notification sound on my new phone. It is that meep meep of the Roadrunner,
Ah.
Roadrunner Wile E. Coyote.
Mhm.
Also, and this is slightly off topic, but this is par for the course for me. I am so sad that my child is not going to be able to watch like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner and Tom and Jerry on TV. I gotta
Mm,
find it somewhere for him to watch though, because I feel like them's was the good cartoons. So,
so true.
anyways, them's was. See, we're approachable here.
We went full circle. We went back to incorrect grammar. Woo.
I love it. So thematically supportive.
Yeah,
So musically aerodynamic.
exactly.
All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode, thought we had anything good to say, or if you think I have a cute baby, give us 5 stars. And if you don't, I'll know that you don't think I have a cute baby. So get to clicking, get to typing those little fingers.
Come on.
I want to see 5 stars from everyone. My baby's adorable. I'm just kidding. But if you guys enjoyed this, please leave us 5 stars, leave us a review. If you guys just want to reach out to us about what you're working on, we would love to hear from you. Or if you have thoughts about things that we said in this episode, or you want to tell us that we are crazy about all the things we said, wouldn't be the first time for me. So I don't know that Chris has ever heard it before since she's always objectively correct about everything. But
Obviously.
maybe time to burst our bubble. I don't know. Reach out. Let us know. We are on social media. We are on TikTok and Instagram. We are the Scripturient Society. TikTok's got a lot of funny videos if you guys have ever been on the TikTok. I have ventured upon the TikTok myself a few times, and I must say the Scripturient Society page is pretty delightful. If you guys are looking for motivation during the week, if you just want to sort of catch up on past episodes, just like topics that we covered, you can do that on Instagram. If you guys want to send us a longer, communication, you can do that over email at contact@storysirenstudio.com. That's our production company. You can also go to that website and check out our merch if you want to support the pod. I think that's everything we've got. If you guys want to join our writing group, as always, the link to our Discord is in the description below. And until next week, keep writing.
And we'll see you on the next page.